I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's popping, guys? Hope you guys are doing well, doing blessed. UFC Fight Night, Max Holloway versus the Korean Zombie. And as always, before we get into making predictions, we take a look at my bets from last week. It was a clean sweep on UFC 292. That's a back-to-back pay-per-view clean sweep. So UFC 291 was a really good return on investment, and so was UFC 292. Back-to-back pay-per-view clean sweeps. And the winning bets that I did make were Karine Silva, Mario Batista, Brad Tavares, Ian Gary, Marlon Vera, and of course Sean O'Malley plus 225. Of course. Super easy, super obvious. We've also got a parlay running from the Contender, so hopefully that fighter can finish that parlay on this upcoming UFC card. And as always, guys, if you want the bets that I'm personally making and you also want to join the best UFC gambling community, the only way to do that is to join the Patreon. And I'm also going to show on the smoke break just how good the MoneyCity team performed on UFC 292. Now moving into MoneyCity, guys, we sparked the blunt for the champions. We always spark the blunt for the OGs, for the champions of the game. That's money, pure money, let's go. And there's quite a few MoneyCity comments that I had to leave out because there's so many winners. There's like 20 comments. Guys, you won. You dusted the bookie. And guys, don't forget, if you want your comment to feature on the MoneyCity segment, you've got to hashtag your comment or drop the emojis, the MoneyCity emojis. You know, dropping your comment without representing it with the hashtag or the emojis is kind of like going to an event with no ticket. No entry. Alright guys, let's go. Alright, moving into the first matchup on this card, we've got SeungWoo Choi taking on Jarno Errens. And this matchup is essentially going to be striker versus striker. I feel like it's fair to say SeungWoo Choi would be fighting for his job in this matchup. Because if he loses this matchup, it's going to be 4 fights in a row that he's lost. And that's obviously not a good thing. Now, the main weakness of SeungWoo Choi does appear to be his lack of head movement. Doesn't really move his head. Doesn't really anticipate the strikes of his opponent. And that's not a good thing. And we see that against Josh Kulabau and also Mike Trezano. Now, Jarno Errens on the flip side didn't really do bad in his UFC debut against William Gomis, but I think his boxing was kinda inactive. He kinda seemed like he wanted to kick over box. And that's not really the best approach when you're fighting against SeungWoo Choi, in my opinion. And there's also a case to be made, in my opinion, that Jarno Errens has a weak ground game and also weak takedown defense. Now, that's not to say SeungWoo Choi is a grappler. He's a Muay Thai striker. But for me on this one, I'm going to side with SeungWoo Choi to save his UFC career. And if he could show some better striking defense, that would be a good positive to take away from the fight. Alright, moving into a matchup between Liang taking on JJ Aldrich. And guys, Liang is so far 0-2 inside the UFC. She's essentially been dusted in both of her UFC fights. She's a massive underdog this weekend and it's probably warranted. I did take Lipski as a big underdog against JJ Aldrich, but Lipski's got good striking, just bad takedown defense. Whereas if you look at Liang, she's got average offensive wrestling, also lazy striking, and also lazy striking defense. You know, the way Silvana Gomez caught her clean and folded her like a deck chair really highlights her bad striking defense. She kind of leaves her chin up in the air, which is obviously a recipe for getting dusted. Now guys, JJ Aldrich is a massive favourite at minus 600, so there's nothing to be had with a money line at minus 600. But I do expect JJ Aldrich to control both the striking and the grappling. I think JJ Aldrich has a good jab. She's also got good takedown defense. So the jab on the feet, that should work. And her takedown defense helps her keep the fight standing. I think if JJ wanted to wrestle with Liang, I think she could. But yeah, she might as well just stay on the feet and just box the nose of Liang. And I think she is going to do that. So my pick will be JJ Aldrich to box Liang. Alright, moving into a matchup between Yusaku Kinoshita taking on Billy Goff. And this is going to be a very decent matchup. Maybe not on paper, but fights don't play out on paper. Never has a matchup played out on paper. Fights play out inside the octagon, and this one should be a scrap. Now, Billy Goff is super aggressive. He'll walk forward, mix up his strikes, the low kicks, the fight-ending punches upstairs. He's super tough, super aggressive. And he can also mix in the takedowns, you know, bring Kinoshita to the mat. And that's exactly where I think Billy Goff could have a big advantage in this matchup. However, guys, Kinoshita's not a bad southpaw striker. His ability to land inside calf kicks and also his counter boxing, it's decent. It's not bad. He did get dusted by Adam Fugit, which, you know, kind of a red flag because I don't really rate Adam Fugit. But yeah, Adam Fugit mainly took advantage of the ground game of Kinoshita. And that's a little bit concerning because Billy Goff might do the same thing. However, guys, if the matchup stays just striking, I think Kinoshita is going to look cleaner with his strikes. But Billy Goff, if he mixes up the takedowns, you know, has more to offer, brings Kinoshita to the mat, then I think the underdog could cash. You know, maybe a good chance the underdog cashes if he's doing more in the matchup. But for me personally, I'm going to be siding with who I believe is the cleaner striker, and that is Yusaku Kinoshita. Alright, moving into a matchup between Kenan Song taking on Rolando Bedoya. And I think looking at the UFC debut of Bedoya, despite losing a close split decision, there is a few positives to take away from that matchup. I think his stock was able to climb in the right direction. His boxing looked very, very good. Maybe not very good, but it looked better than Chaos Williams. You know, Chaos Williams was trying to land kill shots, as he does, and Bedoya was just finding the mark. He was just finding the target more frequently than Chaos Williams. Now, guys, the opponent, Song Kenan, or Kenan Song, he's currently on a 2-fight losing streak, and to be honest, he's not looked too good. He was able to drop Ian Gary, but outside of that, just got massively outclassed. And I kind of think the same thing happens here, where if Song does win this matchup, it's got to be a big kill shot, because I think the output of Rolando Bedoya could be the result in this matchup. And to be honest, guys, that was nearly the result against Chaos Williams. You know, and I think that's going to be the result this time round against Song Kenan. So yeah, I'm going to take Rolando Bedoya. Alright, guys, moving into a matchup between Chidi and Njoukani taking on Michael Oleksiejczuk. And essentially this is going to be a matchup between striker versus striker, but two very different striking styles. Michael Oleksiejczuk is primarily a boxer and Chidi and Njoukani is primarily a kicker. So it's going to be kicking versus boxing. And Chidi has the high and reach, which typically does help you become a good kicker if you can maintain the kicking range, specifically against shorter opponents, and Michael is a shorter opponent for Chidi and Njoukani. Chidi's a very good kicker. His kicks are good, so that will be the objective in this matchup, to maintain the kicking range. Because if you maintain the kicking range and you're a good kicker over the boxer, you're going to look like you're in control of the stand-up. Now, guys, Michael Oleksiejczuk does have more experience in the UFC over Chidi and Njoukani, but he's never really been a fighter that I see as a real contender. Typically, his takedown defense doesn't hold up, like in his last fight against Kyle Bahello or Jimmy Crew or OSP. However, Chidi and Njoukani's not a grappler. He's a striker and primarily a kicker. It's going to be kicking versus boxing. Now, guys, how the matchup looks in round 1 may not be how the matchup looks in round 2. This one's a difficult matchup to predict. Because, guys, let's say that Chidi and Njoukani is maintaining that kicking distance early in the fight. He's going to look good. But if Oleksiejczuk can get past the kicking distance and start to rip to the body, start to box with Chidi, then the matchup can look very different in round 2. So it's a really difficult fight to predict, in my opinion. And in my opinion also, I wouldn't bet on a matchup between Chidi and Njoukani and Oleksiejczuk. But I've got to make a prediction, and my prediction will be the kicker over the boxer. So I'm going to side with Chidi and Njoukani. Alright, moving into a matchup between Toshiomi Kazama taking on Garrett Armfield. And man, you know, we've got to pick Garrett Armfield to win the matchup. And the reason why we pick Garrett Armfield to win the matchup, if we look at the jiu-jitsu player, Toshiomi Kazama, he got absolutely dusted in his UFC debut, and super quick. And on the flip side, Garrett Armfield, he did lose to David Onama, but the first round, it was okay. So I kind of put those two pieces of information together, and you could say it's a prediction that's kind of not fair, because anytime you make a prediction just based off the last fight, you're leaving a lot of information out, right? But this one's such a low level fight that I just feel it's necessary. You know, just go based on their last performance. Garrett Armfield can kind of grapple, but I wouldn't be shocked if he got subbed. You know, he's not great. He's not elite. But if he's winning minutes against David Onama, would Kazama do that? Would he win minutes against Onama? Probably not. So yeah, I'm gonna side with Garrett Armfield to win the matchup. Alright, moving into a matchup between Wardo Cortes-Acosta taking on Lucas Brzeski. And guys, Wardo Cortes-Acosta's got one major weakness that's extremely evident if you go back and watch his fights. His calf kick defense is abysmal. It's really, really bad. And the reason why his calf kick defense is bad, firstly, if you're somebody who thinks you can come to mixed martial arts with a boxing background and use that boxing background, you're mistaken. Boxers are good at boxing, right? But what happens when you go to mixed martial arts and you try to box? The boxer gets their legs chopped down like a tree. You know, you can't stand like a boxer. You can't be heavy on the lead leg because that just doesn't work in mixed martial arts. However, does it really matter that Cortes-Acosta has that weakness if his opponent Lucas Brzeski doesn't have the calf kicking ability to expose his weakness? You know, we see with Rogerio de Lima, of course, this guy's one of the best calf kickers. You know, this guy could chop down a tree with his calf kicks. And that's what he done to Acosta. But guys, with Lucas Brzeski, he doesn't have those weapons. You know, he's not got the calf kicks. So guys, more than likely, we are going to see a boxing matchup between Brzeski and Acosta. And I think Acosta's going to hit Brzeski with the salsa. You know, so that's going to be my pick. I'm going to side with the boxer, Wardo Cortes-Acosta. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, that's a double amen. If you're not a smoker but you enjoy the smoke breaks, that's always been a triple amen, gang. Let's go. Now guys, massive shout out to all the brothers who make the Money City gang as sharp as what we are. Massive shout out. Look all these tickets. UFC 291, dusted. UFC 292, dusted. Hey guys, we're really that cold. We're really that cold. Let's go. I really believe we're the best syndicate gambling group for UFC. I really believe it. So guys, if you're somebody that's looking for a sharp group, if you're somebody that's looking to be around the best UFC gamblers, look no further. Look no further, my friend. Look no further. You know guys, the best way to do the talking is to let the results do the talking for ya. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do. That's what we do. We're cold. Let's go. Alright, moving into a matchup between Junior Tafa taking on Porky Boy Parker Porter. As always guys, do not say Parker Porter 3 times in your mirror unless you want Parker Porter to magically show up in your house and ransack your fridge, which obviously you don't want. However guys, Parker Porter should try to feast on a takedown against Junior Tafa. He got absolutely dusted by Justin Tafa, and I did take Justin Tafa to sleep Parker in that matchup. I also took Muhammad Usman as an underdog to get the takedown against Junior Tafa. Now guys, it's very simple. Parker Porter clearly has the wrestling advantage to win this matchup. Do you have to be Henry Cejudo level wrestling to get a takedown against Junior Tafa? No, you do not. All you've got to do is just ask the question. You know, grab a single leg, ask Justin Tafa to showcase the balance. You know, show us your balance. You've got one leg. I've got the single leg. And more than likely, Junior Tafa's not going to show great balance. More than likely, you do get the takedown, right? So if Parker Porter wants to beat Junior Tafa, it's the same game plan that he had for Justin Tafa. Now guys, that wasn't the case for Parker Porter against Justin Tafa. It was the case for Muhammad Usman against Junior Tafa. In my opinion guys, Parker Porter getting the takedown this time round is probably a little bit more likely. You know, Junior Tafa's a kickboxer, right? So as soon as you ask the question, let's wrestle, that's where you're going to see the disadvantage that Junior Tafa's got. And that's what we saw against Muhammad Usman. And I think we could potentially see that again. So my prediction is going to be Parker Porter to get Junior Tafa to the mat. And more than likely, if Parker does get the fight to the mat, he's going to go to work. So yeah, I'm going to side with Parker Porter to win this matchup. Alright, moving into a matchup between Errens Nurmagomedov taking on Taylor Santos. And guys, Errens Nurmagomedov is a monster. I took her against Jessica Andrade at like plus 160 when pretty much everybody was talking about Andrade being a good bet. But her takedown defense wasn't good, and Erin Nurmagomedov, Erin Blanchfield, timed a really good takedown, and she's a monster on the mat, literally a monster. Now guys, Taylor Santos may be more difficult to get to the mat, but it's really the same thing I said about Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley. The hard part isn't going to be establishing half guard or getting to crucifix or whatever Erin wants to do on the mat. That's not going to be the difficult part for Erin Nurmagomedov, Erin Blanchfield. Actually, that part's going to appear very easy for Erin. The hard part is going to be getting the takedown. As I said, Santos is going to be more difficult to get to the mat compared to Maverick and Andrade. But guys, once you get there, you're in Erin Nurmagomedov's world. And guys, best believe it's difficult to survive in the world of Erin Nurmagomedov, especially if you're not good on the mat, especially if you don't want to be on the mat. So in my opinion, give me Erin Nurmagomedov, Erin Blanchfield to find a stoppage on the mat, potentially late. Alright, moving into a matchup between Rinya Nakamura taking on Fernie Garcia. Now guys, Rinya Nakamura is a very good wrestler. He's one of the best wrestlers signed to the UFC over the last 12 months or so. He's also extremely explosive. You know, got a quick KO stoppage in his UFC debut. And I think it's pretty likely that Rinya Nakamura would find a stoppage against Fernie Garcia, probably in round 1. And if it does sneak into round 2, I'd still favour a stoppage before the fight goes over 1.5. You know, Fernie Garcia is someone that's going to fight, right? Even if he gets tired, he's going to fight. But guys, how can you fight if your lights get switched off? How can you fight if you're getting ragdolled? I think Rinya Nakamura has a very, very good chance at winning this matchup. I think Rinya Nakamura probably dominates Fernie Garcia, gets a very easy stoppage, gets a nice win bonus, and probably buys himself some more hype. You know, the debut, quick KO stoppage, and then probably gets another one in this matchup. So yeah, give me Rinya Nakamura. But obviously the money line's like -900, so there's nothing to be had. But yeah, the pick is Rinya Nakamura. Alright, moving into a matchup between Giga Chikadze taking on Alex Caceres. And guys, to be honest, this matchup is low-key fire. I'm not gonna lie, it's low-key fire. Now guys, why is it a good matchup? For the simple reason that both Chikadze and Bruce Leroy are phenomenal kickers. Chikadze will play the striking chess match, you know, and Bruce Leroy loves the striking chess match. Both of these guys are phenomenal kickers, but let's take a look at the grappling. It's clear to me that Bruce Leroy, who's been competing in mixed martial arts for over a decade, more like a decade and a half, it's clear to me that Caceres would have the advantage when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So guys, if the striking's close, which the striking could be close, considering both of them are very good chess players, you know, both are really good kickers, they're both playing the same game. And when you both play the same game, you're kind of mirroring your opponent, you know, and the fight could look close because of that. So if that's the case, then potentially if Caceres can bring Chikadze to the mat, that could be a real advantage for the underdog. And guys, I know we see Chikadze as a really good striker, and he is, but he's not a good boxer. He's more about kicks, right? And when you fight Chikadze, you have to deal with the kicks. But Caceres, when you fight Caceres, it's the same thing. You know, you're dealing with kicks, you're dealing with the switching of stances, you're dealing with a high-level chess player. So both of these fighters are very good at what they do, and Caceres has been delivering some really, really good work. I know he's at like the end of his career, or towards the end, but the work he's delivering is good work. And I think if he can bring Chikadze to the mat, that could be the real advantage. And I've also not picked many underdogs. So yeah, I'm going to side with Caceres as a nice underdog. That's my pick. Alright, moving into a matchup between Anthony Smith taking on Ryan Spann. Now guys, I did take Anthony Smith in the first matchup. He was able to showcase his jiu-jitsu, also able to showcase his boxing. He essentially dusted Ryan Spann. And somebody in my Discord group, I can't remember who it was, but they made the comparison that Ryan Spann is similar to Terence McKinney. And in my opinion, this comparison is really good. It kind of highlights Ryan Spann. It's essentially kill or be killed. It's essentially a round 1 stoppage for Ryan Spann or go on to get dusted. And that's because Ryan Spann doesn't have good decision making and his chin is a little bit dusty. And he also wilts if the opponent doesn't fold early in the fight, similar to Terence McKinney. However, There's a big however. Let's not pretend that Anthony Smith has looked good recently. Let's not pretend that Smith is in the prime of his career. Anthony Smith has taken a lot of damage, right? And he's older. And he's also still dealing with the PTSD of somebody breaking into his house. And some people might say, you're not a doctor, you're not a psychiatrist, you're not a therapist. How do you know that? Well, guys, if you look at if you look at Anthony Smith against Johnny Walker, he starts speaking to Johnny Walker in the middle of the fight, acting like Johnny Walker's the guy that broke into his house. And some people might laugh at that, but it's really concerning. You know, that's actually concerning. And I think Anthony Smith should probably hang the gloves up. You know, mentally and physically, he looks washed. So for me personally, guys, I can't predict Anthony Smith to win these matchups. I think he looked like a shell against Ankalaev. I think he looked like a shell against Johnny Walker. And, you know, if he can survive round 1 against Ryan Spann, then maybe he's got a chance, right? Because like I said, Ryan Spann is kill or be killed, right? Round 1 or go on to lose the matchup. So thinking about the fight from that sense, then if Smith can survive round 1, there's a chance. But in my opinion, it's too risky to wait those 5 minutes. In my opinion, I wouldn't make the bet pre-fight because Ryan Spann's got good neck attacks. He's very powerful and he's also getting better, whereas Smith is not. You know, he's declining fight to fight. So my prediction in the rematch will be Ryan Spann to win the rematch and potentially a round 1 stoppage. Alright, moving into our matchup, or the main event, between Max Holloway taking on the Korean Zombie. Now, obviously, this matchup is very easy to predict. You know, it's an easy prediction to make. Korean Zombie is 36 years old, but looks much older than 36 years old. So obviously his chances of beating Max Holloway, in my opinion, it's no greater than 20%. And that's being fair to the Korean Zombie. Max Holloway is still competing at a really, really high level. And the Korean Zombie is obviously someone who's probably going to get boxed up by the blessed one, Max Holloway. Now, if the Korean Zombie wants to win this matchup, he's essentially got to stop Max Holloway because there's literally no chance that he would win over 25 minutes against Max Holloway. And guys, I never say there's no chance, but I'm willing to say that here. You know, Korean Zombie's not going to win over 25 minutes. Now guys, Sean O'Malley shocked the world last week, apparently. It wasn't a shock to me, but apparently it was a shock. But guys, if Korean Zombie actually won this matchup, this is what you actually call a shock. This would actually be a shock because he's massively outmatched when it comes to cardio, output, and also durability. So the Korean Zombie is outmatched. He's so outmatched that if he wins the matchup, it would be a shock. However, I won't predict Korean Zombie to win the matchup. For me, the blessed one, Max Holloway, to find a stoppage in round 3 or round 4. As always, guys, drop down your main event, your co-main event, your MoneyCity plays, your straight bets, parlays, all that good stuff. Drop in the comment section below. And as always, keep your eyes to the sky, never glued to your shoes. Peace.